What's up, everybody? So it's Saturday, and you all know what that means. We, of course, have a game tomorrow, and that game is the New Orleans Saints versus Carolina Panthers. Now, this game is a really big game for both sides. The Carolina Panthers are straggling and fighting for their chances to be a playoff team. They're fighting for that wild card spot. They're fighting for a chance, a sliver of hope to win the division. The Saints are 8-2. They lead the division. They have a steady hand on it. Yet the Carolina Panthers still have to attempt to keep their season alive, and this is one of the games that matters most to the Carolina Panthers. It's a divisional game. Of course it matters. We still play these guys 2 times. We have no feel for how these games are going to be. Carolina Panthers and New Orleans Saints fans can either be offensive, defensive, special teams based. It's always something extremely different between these teams. It's never predictable, but we're going to go ahead and predict it anyway. The New Orleans Saints need this win as well. If they win against the Carolina Panthers today and win against the Atlanta Falcons, which I'm likely going to that game, the MWR is giving out free tickets, and your boy is going to show up in the line and get some, because why not? They donated, so take advantage of it because it is for the military families. But anyway, I probably will be going to that game. If the New Orleans Saints could get things done against Atlanta in Atlanta as well, we win the division. So the New Orleans Saints have to get these 2 games done. I think they understand how significant everything is. I think the flukes are out of the way. I think the Saints are playing, maybe 75% of what they can play. I don't think they've played anywhere near their best football yet. We haven't had a consistent basis of healthy players on the field. So this is a game that we can go out there and prove ourselves and capture the lead for the division and pretty much make it unreachable by anyone else. And then putting the nail in the coffin on Thursday night on Thanksgiving against the Atlanta Falcons. So the first thing I'd like to talk about in this prediction video, I know I used this picture in the Matchups to Watch episode. I'm going to talk about the keys to victory this week. I'm not going to talk about everything about both teams. I'm going to talk about the New Orleans Saints' keys to victory against the Carolina Panthers. And the first one, I believe, is to exploit Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen has thrown 9 interceptions over the last 4 games, which is insane. 3 against San Francisco, 1 against Tennessee, 1 against Green Bay, and 4 against Atlanta. So he has had 2 games in the last 4 games that he's thrown at least 3 picks. That's a big deal. In the last 4 games, he has had 2 84 QBR games, a 28.9 QBR game, and a 47.5 QBR game. He's playing like a below-average backup quarterback at this point. He's no longer in the conversation for taking Cam Newton's job, which is good because he should have never been in the conversation for taking Cam Newton's job. Cam Newton has been riddled with injuries over the last couple of years. It's not fair to just give his job to Kyle Allen, who had a couple of good games. He's playing like real Kyle Allen now. The first time the New Orleans Saints, or the first time Kyle Allen got his NFL start ever, he absolutely torched the New Orleans Saints in Week 17, mostly because of prevent defense and arresting starters to just try to get through the playoffs since we already clinched the division and first seed. So I don't expect him to look the same against us at all this week. The Saints doubled their season total of interceptions last week, bringing it from 4 to 8. In a 4 interception performance without star corner Marshawn Lattimore. Lattimore is questionable, but I think the Saints will rest him until at least the Thanksgiving game because he has a very, very, very hot date with Julio Jones. And because of Carolina's extreme lack of a number 1 wide receiver, I don't think it's quite necessary to throw Marshawn Lattimore out there, especially considering how good P.J. Williams, Eli Apple, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson fared against wide receivers like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in the same game last week without Marshawn Lattimore. Fantastic play. So I think a very big key to this game for the New Orleans Saints is the exploitation of Kyle Allen. If we can get him to throw a couple of interceptions, that completely changes the tide of the game because we're no longer a team that is going to get an interception and put a field goal up. Nah, Drew Brees doesn't play that way. If we get a pick, if we get good field position, it's going into the end zone. The offense for the New Orleans Saints seemed to click a lot better last week, and I think that if the defense can get us a couple of turnovers, which I know it will, they've been great at forcing the ball out of players' hands, catching interceptions. They've been doing a great job. A bunch of ball hawks that know how to play each other, that have great chemistry. If Kyle Allen could be rattled by that defensive line and forced to throw a couple of stupid passes, that could change the tide of the game completely and almost 100% solidify the Saints to get a victory over the Carolina Panthers. I don't think Kyle Allen is a good enough of a quarterback to lead his team to a victory in New Orleans, but we're going to talk about somebody that might be able to do that in Christian McCaffrey. Another key for the New Orleans Saints in this game is to stop Christian McCaffrey. He's been great, but he's tend to play down once he's playing top 10 run defenses in the league, which is, to be expected. You're playing a top 10 run defense, but the New Orleans Saints have the third best run defense in the league. And let me read you some numbers real quick. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have the number 2 the number 2 rush defense in the NFL, they held Christian McCaffrey to just 16 attempts for 37 yards and 2 receptions in the first matchup. In the second matchup, Christian McCaffrey notched 22 carries for 31 yards. That is absolutely terrible. And 2 touchdowns, one receiving and 1 rushing. His best games came against Jacksonville, which was 176 yards, 29th in run defense there. He played a horrible run defense and excelled. Houston, he had 93 yards and a touchdown there, 19th in run defense. San Francisco, he put up 117 yards, 1 touchdown, but they're 20th in rush defense. I know, right? San Francisco, the team that everybody is raving about for being defensive monsters. They have the 20th worst run defense in the NFL, or the 20th ranked. Sorry, not the 20th worst, the 20th ranked. Yeah. He's a great running back, an MVP candidate, but when he plays higher level competition, the drop-off is extremely significant. Not a knock, just statistics. So I'm not going to go and just ignore statistics because Christian McCaffrey has been having the amazing season he's been having. Statistics are statistics, and you have to ask yourself this question: how will Christian McCaffrey fare against the third best run defense in the league in the New Orleans Saints? They've been absolutely fantastic all year, have not allowed a 100-yard rusher in 2 years since that game against the Washington Redskins, in which we came back down 14 with 3 minutes left. Can the New Orleans Saints contain Christian McCaffrey, take him off of the hot streak he's been on all season, and contain him? If we can, that's another big way to get a victory here. Stopping Christian McCaffrey is very important because I'm pretty sure, and I'm almost 100% sure when I say this, Kyle Allen can't do it himself. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is our own shifty, explosive running back who does not have the statistics of Christian McCaffrey, largely in part due to the fact that he spent a couple of games injured. The coaching hasn't been exactly in his favor, and just stuff has been going negatively for Alvin Kamara, but that's okay because if we run the ball, we win this game. Carolina has the 27th worst rushing defense in the entire NFL as of now. They allow a staggering 128.4 rushing yards per game with a 27.7% chance that the offense runs for a first down on first down, which is the league's worst percentage, period. Alvin Kamara versus Atlanta, he looked like himself. Alvin Kamara versus Tampa Bay, he looked like himself. Alvin Kamara had 13 carries for 75 yards, 5.7 yards per carry with 10 targets, 10 receptions for 47 yards, and a negated touchdown. Latavius Murray showed flashes during Alvin Kamara's injury, running for 27 attempts for 119 yards for 2 touchdowns in Chicago, and rushing for 21 attempts, 102 yards and a touchdown versus Arizona, 55 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown as well, respectively. That's pretty much it. If you run the ball, stop the run, allow Drew Brees to work the play action, get Michael Thomas and Jared Cook involved early, this may be a game where Traquan Smith shows up as well. Be on the watch for that. We get the win. The New Orleans Saints pretty much completely outmatched Carolina in every category. The receivers are better. The running backs by committee are better. I do believe that Christian McCaffrey is having a better season than Alvin Kamara by far, but when the Saints use both of their running backs to the highest of their ability, they do perform better than Christian McCaffrey and company. I do think we have a better running back by committee situation, but that is something to talk about at a different time. The quarterback is clearly better. The defense is better. I just don't see the Saints losing this game. If we go ahead and play like we were supposed to play and not play down to our opponent's level, Atlanta, then we should be more than fine. But the last thing I want to look at in this game is the injury report. Andreas Pete is, of course, out for the New Orleans Saints. Marshawn Lattimore is questionable, but like I said, I don't think they're going to start him. The New Orleans Saints do seem to be a team that starts players when they're not 100% ready, i.e. Alvin Kamara versus Jacksonville. I don't think we should start Marshawn Lattimore, but I digress. I'm not the head coach or anything for the New Orleans Saints, so that's that. Deontay Harris is out yet again, and Zach Line, a surprising one, is out as well, which is kind of sucky because he's a reliable fullback and makes plays when given the opportunity to. Josh Hill practiced fully off of that very nasty concussion. Austin Carr is on injury reserve, actually. He did not participate. He's done. I don't know what exactly happened. Apparently an ankle injury, but he's done for the year. Ryan Ramczyk practiced fully. He'll play, which is fantastic. Great news. From the Panthers, Ross Cockrell, corner, limited, questionable. Gerald McCoy practiced fully, which we're very familiar with Gerald McCoy, actually, because he played for Tampa at one point as well. Dennis Daly, full, but he's questionable. Eric Reed, full. Shaq Thompson, full. Brian Burns, questionable with a wrist injury. And Greg Little is practiced fully. He's going to start versus the New Orleans Saints. So I think if you look at it from the Panthers' perspective, anybody listed at questionable is likely going to play. This is a do-or-die game for them. They cannot afford to lose it. So I think they're going to put anybody out there that they physically can to play. They're not going to take any just, you can rest for a week. Nah, this is the biggest game of the season for them. Expect them to play like it. If the New Orleans Saints can come out here, completely ignore anything, ignore records, ignore standings, ignore everything, and just go out there and play football, then we're more than fine. Don't let it get to your heads, boys. It happened versus Atlanta. I think that was the reality check. The humbling happened. Don't mess this up. With all of that being said, what is my prediction for the game? Saints win 31-21. I think the Saints have a big game. I think Carolina puts together a few offensive drives during the scripted first quarter and the scripted after the second half. I think they do a little bit of damage, but not enough to sink the sailing ship that is the New Orleans Saints. So with all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to drop your predictions of this game down below, and I'll see you boys in the next one. Adios.